Today I built a downed ATST. Instead of spending $50 at Fantasy Flight Games and waiting weeks for it to arrive, I built my own in under a day. I started out with a 3D printed Fallen ATST that you can find in the description below. Now the rough part about this is getting all of the supports off, but it doesn't matter if it looks all really rough underneath because it's going to be fallen down into dirt anyway. I also printed a little standing light, the kind of lights you see on Yavin. And once that is printed and primed with a putty primer, I'm just going to give it a nice sand with the Dremel tool to get rid of any of those layer lines. I then carve a base for it all to sit on out of a scrap piece of MDF. And also coat the ATSD in another coat of grey primer. I want this ATST to have fallen over on a little bit of a hill as well, so I'm going to add some foam just to pad out the underneath so I'm not wasting as much plaster. And for the plaster, I'm going to mix up a nice watery mix and add in a bunch of torn up tissue to get that nice consistency like sculptor mold. I'm also going to add in some peat moss here. I was trying to make it look like dirt, like brown, but in the end, it's just better to give it another coat later on with flock. So it looks like the ATST has really fallen down into the dirt. I mix up a slightly more watery version of the original compound mixture. And this thinner mixture will allow me to press the ATST into the ground and make it look like it's sunk down over time. I also add in my little light. My idea here is that someone's come around and is trying to harvest or scavenge from the ATSD and they need a light to work with. So they're using the power source from inside it to light up the light. I then give the entire thing a coat with a black wash. This makes it look more like the dark grey colouring of the ATSD. In the lighter areas along the top face, I thin down the wash a little bit with water to make it just look a bit brighter. Once everything is nice and dry, it's time to start flocking it. I give it a coat of peat moss and dark sand, a coat of green flock, and then I add in some of the extra details. After all the flock is dried and sealed, the next day in the morning, I just come in and add in the little pieces that fell off when I was taking off the supports. These are like the flimsy little guards, the side cannon, and the two little flaps for the windows at the front. And I just add them on as if they've fallen off over time. To further add to the old weathered look, I'm going to add in some green lichen. And this just looks like moss or trees, little trees that have been growing all around the ATST. And I think that looks really good and it makes it look like it's really old. And there it is. Super cheap, super fast, easy to make, everything that I love. And I think it'll look great on the table as more scatter terrain for my forest game board. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week with something different.